All right, so let's review the coding challenge. React Intermediate, Upper Intermediate. What we got here? Question number one, display list of movies. So in here you have an array of movies, apparently with some properties, title, year, director, whatever. And it looks like we just want to, using different paragraph, one paragraph per movie, we just want to format the result a bit. Yeah, I think that question was a bit, it was quite simple actually. So that's quite cool. So can you tell me guys how many props the movies component receives? Just one, correct. The list, correct. Okay, brilliant. So let's solve the problem. Look, so the exercise is inviting us to use a class, a stateful component. You know what? Unless the exercise forces me to use a class, a stateful component, which in some cases may happen, unless that's the case, I would like to use hooks. Yeah, because you already know how to deal with hooks. Once again, if you've been using, if you've used a constructor, so if you use a stateful component, that's absolutely fine, no problem at all. All right, so I got my function movies, and then I will return something. Yeah, as I think Ian said, or someone else, or maybe Adam, the component receives a single props, which is the list. So I will destructure it. You see, I'm presenting my credentials to the employer already. I've done nothing, but on the first line, I'm already proving that I know how destructuring works. So now, I have an array of movies, and I want essentially to build an array of paragraphs. So which method in JavaScript transforms an array of something into an array of something else? Map, perfect, perfect. So I got list.map, and then I have something in there, and what I will get is essentially an array of paragraphs. Okay? So obviously we got a list of movies, so we could use movie and then movie.title, movie.year, movie.director, everything. But of course, I'm going to use the structuring again: title, year, director. So then we need to display some details like the title. I think in parentheses, then we got the year, and then we got comma directed by, and then whoever the person is, right? Which is director. All right, so we'll see in a minute if that works or not. Am I missing anything, guys? If I show you the code again, how does it look? Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Remember, guys, every time you have map, you use map in React, the root element must have a key, and the key must be something unique. So do we have any unique attribute here? Well, hopefully the title, yeah? So just to keep things simple, I will use the title. And I think that's pretty much it, unless I forgot anything. That should be it, right? That was a pretty simple question. Let's see if it works. Yeah, I did something wrong, so probably there's a typo somewhere. Look, Wonder Woman 2017, directed by. Oh, you see the problem. I I use a colon after directed by, right? The XSS doesn't have any colon. Good. Hopefully that's it. There you go. You got confetti time. Cool. Any questions, guys? That was very simple, right? That was almost a beginner question. Let me quickly go through your solution. So you see Ian is using a class, which I said is absolutely fine. It just makes everything slightly more complicated, I believe. Yeah, you compare the lines of code Ian had to write compared to just using a stateless component. So the thing is, guys, you use a class when you have a state. So when you have a state, okay, you can think whether using a class or hooks. But in this particular case, you don't have any state, right? You don't have any button. You are not going to change. You don't have any backend. You have not. You just display a list of static data, right? So that's why I think that's slightly unnecessary. Um, so Adam, yeah, the same thing, all good. Having the key, fantastic. Uh, interesting. Look at what Dan did. So Dan created a variable list, and he's destructuring the variable, and then he's just using the variable, which is absolutely fine. I think then the only very subtle concern here is I believe you should add spaces when you destructure a variable between the bracket and the variable name. That's the only thing. And also, yeah. Go for it. Yeah, go for it. Can we destructure in render? Yes, of course we can destructure in render. Look, Dan is destructuring in render, right? Why not? As no, no, I don't think so. As far as I know, no. You can. Okay. Oh, so you mean that you can pass props here? Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, fine. So what Ian is saying that you can pass props as the argument of the render. Uh, yeah. Fair enough. If you can do that, then no, that's how I struggle to believe that, Panos, because I wrote all the React exercises and I didn't know that was possible. Uh, in constructor, yes, in constructor it was, but what about render? I mean, probably, yeah, you're right, guys. I'm not saying you are not right. I'm saying I have no idea. But if that's the case, then great. Then you can pass props here on the render, and then you can deconstruct it, deconstruct the props, the list in that case, in real time. So yeah, yeah. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The constructor is optional. The constructor is only necessary if you have a state. If you have a state, you need the constructor to initialize the state. But in this particular case, as we don't have any state, there is no point of having a constructor. What do you do on the constructor? Just you leave it, you keep it empty. So what's the point? You can do it if you want, but that's unnecessary. Yeah. Personally, yes. Because what's the point, guys? Do you see an advantage of using a class? It just makes everything more complicated. Yeah, you need to write render, return. I don't know. It's just more complicated. If you got stateless component, if you just want to display a list of things, just create a function. Keep it simple, right? I'm not complaining about what you did. Of course not. Especially because the exercise already suggested you to use a class. Yeah, but I think that's about it. Dan, I will suggest you to on the return statement. Well, two things. First of all, I don't think you need a return statement. So you need it here because you're using curly braces. But remember, you can replace the curly braces with parentheses. I'm sure someone else did that already. Yeah, look at, for instance, who is that? Adam did. Yeah, you see Adam, parentheses. Yeah, and now look, because he's using parentheses in that way, the code is, look at the indentation is I think slightly better. Yeah, because you open the p tag and then you close it at the same vertical line. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Then it didn't work for Panos. So the thing is, yeah, yeah. But you get the point, Panos. You show how to. Okay, cool, awesome. And then finally with the Brima, pretty much the same thing. Yeah. So this is a proposal list, blah blah blah. So yeah, it's all good, guys. It's all good. All right. Any questions about this problem? No. Cool. Fantastic. All right. So I'll do question number. Before going to question number 2, is there, guys, any question? Because eventually we'll run out of time probably. So let's prioritize our efforts. So is there any question, not necessarily the second one, that you will be very interested on reviewing? Yeah. Marcus Reed. Okay, number 5. Okay. Let's do that. Let's do that. Cool. So I will jump straight to question number 5. Of course, then as far as possible, we'll come back to the previous one. Marcus Reed email. Yeah, it's a really good question. That's a really good question, because if you read the instructions, you think, hey, this is going to be a piece of cake, just 3-4 lines. Yeah. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. Let's try to understand the problem. So we got a component called email client, and the look in this particular case, guys, you see the test is explicitly checking the state. That means I cannot use hooks. I really need to use a stateful component, a class, but that's fine, not a big deal. So I got a component with a state. So until here, until the then, is a piece of cake. Yeah, a component with a state, no problem at all. Then the problem is I got another component, mark as read. So whenever the child component mark as read button, triggers the click action, I want to change the state of the parent from false to true. In other words, we're building an email client, guys. On Gmail and many other email clients, you can select an email and mark it as read. Yeah, just have a button. So the first problem is the component name is wrong, right? That doesn't help. Class mark as read. What the hell is mark as read? Do you see any component here called mark as read? No, that's wrong. So we should rename it to email client. And once again, I'm going to leave it as a class because I have to play with the state. Constructor super this dot state equals mark as read false. Yeah. And now the tricky part, render, return, and now I have to bind with another component called mark as read button. Okay, no problem at all. So mark as read button. So now let's build the mark as read button and then we'll take it from there. So now at the bottom, I create a function. For now, I'm going to leave it as a stateless component, yeah, unless I get a good reason to change that. Return, and then I got a button, maybe with some text on it. I don't think there are any guidelines about the content of the button. So mark as read, whatever. Yeah. And now, look, guys, we are used to send props all the way down, right? So for instance, title equals hello. Yeah, we know how to do that, right? So now on the mark as read button, we can pass title, and then, I don't know, we can display the title here. Yeah, we know how to pass properties top bottom. But now the problem is on the other way around. We don't want to pass a prop from top to bottom. We want to pass something from bottom to the top. Yeah, this component, the child component, is gonna tell the parent component, hey, please change the state from false to true, or vice versa, or whatever. Yeah. So how do we do that? That's very important, guys. That's a very, very, very powerful pattern in React. So can't the child component mark as read button update the state by itself? No, that's not legal. That's not legal. Only the email client component can update the state. So if the child component, mark as read button, wants to change that state, it has to request it via a callback function. So how do we do that? Look, here we can pass a property. Let me call it onClick. Not sure if onClick is a good name or not. I just made that up, guys. That has nothing to do with React. I can call it onRicardo if you want. Yeah, that doesn't really matter. onClick, because onClick from a readability point of view works quite well with me. onClick, yeah. So I mean, when you click on the button. But once again, you can type whatever you want here. onClick. So once we click on the button, then I want to change the state here. So then I can type, I don't know, this dot mark as read. So now, because I'm creating a new function here, so what I can do is mark as read this dot set state, and now, guys, you know how to update the state in a stateful component. Mark as read true. So now my question is, all right, but wait a minute, onClick. So that component has no idea about what onClick means. Let me rename that to onRicardo, because otherwise it can be a bit confusing with the onClick event of the button. So I'm just making something up. Yeah. So then what? We are passing a prop to the mark as read component. All right, so let's destructure it here. And now, look, guys, look at how beautiful that code is. Button, on click. When you click on the button, then call that function. You see, when you click on the button, on Ricardo is a function. Yeah, you see, it's a function. So when, so when you click on the button, then call that function. And because we're calling this function, then we are updating the state. You see, the pattern is very, 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 very powerful. Very, 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 very powerful. And this is some sort of a standard in React. The responsibility to change, to update, to maintain the state is always on the parent. So if any child element like Marcus read button wants to interact with the state, it has to request it by a function. Yeah. So we pass a prop, call whatever you want. I'm going to rename on Ricardo in a minute, of course. You pass a prop, which is a function. So if the child component wants to update the parent state, it has to call that function. Yeah. So if we test it, let's see if it works. Yeah, you got confetti time, so that means that the code is correct. So now, questions? Absolutely, absolutely, Adam. Because look at the exercise. Cons Marcus read button. So the exercise is forcing you to create a new component called Marcus read button. The function. Okay. Well, you can update the state here directly. You can do that here. This dot set state. You can do that if you want. That's fine. That's fine. That's the same thing, right? This is about separation of concerns. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that coding style. Why? Guys, the render function, this is about displaying HTML, right, essentially. So it should be the slicker, the better. We shouldn't add a lot of JavaScript complexity into the render function. So if I create a new function called Marcus read, I'm somehow separating my logic, yeah? I keep all the JavaScript complexity into the React class, and I keep the rendering into the render method. However, this is just a matter of good practices. Technically speaking, of course, you can do that if you want. So if I run it again, nothing should change. That should work, yeah. Oh, it didn't work. Wait a minute. What did I do wrong? Oh, guys. Mark it as read. Yeah, that was a typo. All right. So unless I did another typo, it should work this time. Here you go. Cool. Questions, guys? Yeah. Obviously, rename that, right? I like to call it on click for consistency reasons, right? Because if I read, guys, if I read the API of the Marcus read button, I don't even need to read the function Marcus read button. The semantics tell me how it works, right? Marcus read button. Okay, there's a button on click. I mean, unless we are extremely stupid, we understand that. That means when you click on the button, then you trigger an action, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to share that snippet on Slack. Cool. Yep. Panos, go for it.
Is there any other way?
Uh,
If you could, for example, have the market read and then with client, the component there?
what? What? No,
If I have it,
I'm not following you, Panos. We'll see in a minute. We'll see. We'll see in a minute, Panos. Well, actually, that's what I wanted to do next. Let me see what you did, or let me try to understand at least your approach, guys. So, question 5. Question 5. Here it is. Question 5. So, what we got here? So, Ian. You see, Ian did essentially the same thing I did. Yeah, it's essentially the same code. So email client, he created a Marcus read function, and then he's not destructuring, but apart from that, it's literally the same code. Yeah, so nice one, Ian. Yeah, so the main problem with so Adam tried to nest both components. You see, he tried to create the Marcus read button inside of the email client button, which is not correct. Yeah, the components should be. Yeah. He followed the Kama Sutra of code structuring. Nice. Let me look to Panos. So yeah, so the main well, okay, cool. So look, so the main Panos, so the main component is called email client. So the hierarchy is correct. You see, the root component is email client, and email client renders Marcus read button. The problem is the state. So he created the state as part of the Marcus read button. However, the exercise asks you to hold the state as part of, as you can see, the parent wrapper, which is the email client. So the pattern here in Panos is when you have a state, it should always remain on the root component, not on the child component. And what else? Minji, look. So that looks quite good to me. You see, email client, constructor, state, that's perfect. Render, on the render, she calls the Marcus read button, that's perfect. On button clicked, that's perfect. And then on button click, this does set the state. Oh God, you guys, can you see where the problem is? That's 99% perfect, Minji. Can timeout. Guys, you see that set the state has some typos here. Marcus read, that should be colon because it's an object. Also, C is not closing the parentheses. So, but yes, a couple of minor details. I mean, guys, if you do, I mean, if you're sending this exercise in a job interview, to me, that's not bad, Minji. So what you've done, I'm not going to reject your profile, yes, because of this typo, because you clearly understood the process and how to orchestrate the code. Yeah. Cool. Anything else, guys, regarding this question? Hello? Oh, good, cool. So what's next, guys? Tell me, which question do you want to review next? Any suggestion?
There was one with salary and there was one with add and subtract.
Yes. Okay, so question number 2, display the expected salary of a player. Question number 3, do you accept terms and conditions? Question number 4, well, terms and conditions? Okay. Okay, cool. Let's quickly go through it. Look, so here we got the component terms and conditions. Look, that line, cons is stateless components. That line is a bit confusing, but the message here is you should deal with hooks. You cannot create a stateful component. Yeah? That's the human translation of such a weird condition. So we got a component with a label and 2 buttons, and we essentially want to check if the user has accepted the terms, if the user has accepted the conditions, or if the user has accepted one of them. Yeah, obviously, when you got the terms and conditions, you can switch them on and off. Yeah, you know, when you sign up into any web platform, do you accept terms and conditions? You got a checkbox or a button, and you can click it on and off. You can switch it on and off. So that's pretty much the same idea. All right, so terms and conditions, let's use some hooks. So terms, set terms equals user state. So by default, the user hasn't accepted the terms. And likewise, obviously, it will be weird, right, to get the accepted terms, the checkbox marked by default. Like, hey, wait a minute, I didn't tick on that checkbox. Why is it marked? Why is it enabled by default? So set terms and conditions. So both disabled or both not ticked by default. So then we'll have some HTML, and the HTML has a label. We'll see what to do with the label in a minute. And then we got a button. So the button has few properties. I'm not sure if we could need to add any specific text. So let me call it accept terms. So first of all, the class name, I think is called terms. But we also have obviously the onClick event, right? So onClick, let's change the state. So set terms true. What do you think, guys? Should I do that? Set terms true when you click on the button, on the accept terms button?
No,
Why not?
because it's to toggle
Correct. Correct. Imagine, guys, when you accept the terms and then you realize that you read that's something that we never do, right? That reading the little terms about the contract, whatever, and you realize that there is something that you don't agree with, so you want to untick the checkbox and it doesn't allow you, right? So that's essentially what we are doing here. So we should definitely negate whatever the terms were, right? So I got that. Can I do everything in one line? Probably not, but just in case, let me try. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, accept terms, and then obviously I need to do pretty much the same thing with the conditions. Class name, conditions, onClick, set conditions, not condition. You see, I'm going beyond that line. So in this particular case, let me split the arguments across different lines. Yeah. So you see, guys, I got some errors here. That's because obviously, look, how many root elements do I have now? 2, wrong. That's correct, 3, yeah, with the label and 2 buttons. So, you know, guys, you can have a div or try to make it a bit more elegant, more fashion. Let me use an empty fragment. Cool. So I think the state is working fine. However, now the main problem is the message. We want to display a message. So the only thing we need to do here, where I am, the only thing to do here is we have to, you know, play a bit with if else, yeah, with ternary. So if I got terms and conditions, then display something. What's the message? I don't know. The message should be terms and conditions accepted. Okay, no problem at all. So let's do that. Terms and conditions accepted. Else, if I got the terms only, then terms accepted. Else, if I got conditions, then conditions accepted. And else, that means nothing has been accepted yet. So then you can display, I don't know what's the message, nothing accepted yet. Nothing accepted yet. All right, so let's display that. Yeah, guys, I'm not very happy about this ternary because you can see it's quite complicated, right? So you could always create a function outside and deal with that in, you know, in a slightly different way. I mean, I don't think it's absolutely horrible. It's a bit personal, yeah. How readable that bit is, I don't know. That's a bit personal, because I think the topic we are dealing with is so easy to understand. Probably that would be okay with me, but once again, not very convinced. Not very convinced. So personally, probably what I will do is I will create a function, cons get message, and as part of that function, then I will deal with the complexity, guys. As I told you before, personally, I prefer to have the complexity of my algorithms outside of the render function, because the render function, you know, should be just for rendering. There should be nothing complicated on it at all. Yeah. So now what I see here is I got a label, and the label was the message. I don't know if I want to find all the details about my message. I can always, you know, analyze the content of that and get message function. By the way, guys, you've seen I'm using a constant. So when you create functions, you can either create a classic function and then return whatever. Yeah, you can do that. You know that already. Or you can also create a constant, which is a variable at the end. And what type of variable is that? Is it a string? Is it a number? Is it an object? No, it is equals. It is a function, as you can see here. Let's see if that works. Yeah, it does work. So, questions, guys? How does it sound? Yeah, of course. You see, I don't think there is anything particularly complicated. Maybe to me, the most difficult part is trying to understand that complex ternary if else. But apart from that, it's just a basic function with a couple of hooks, and then we play with them, dealing with the buttons. All right, cool. Anything else, guys? You got the snippet on Slack. So we've got time for one more question, but before that, let me check what you did. So that was question number, I don't remember, number 3, 2. Yeah, that one. Let me scroll to the top. Yeah, terms and conditions. So all good for Ian. 2 hooks, pretty much the same thing. Instead of a function, he created a variable, but that's absolutely fine, right? So he created a variable, and with the ternary, he decided the value of the variable. It's all good for him. Same thing for Adam. Yeah, brilliant, perfect. Yeah, so that's it, guys. So we got time for one more question. So now is your opportunity to decide which one do you want to do. I think we got 2 questions left, right? We got the math operations, and then what's the other one? The other one, the salary. So guys, do you have any preference, salary or math operations? Hello?
I'm happy with whatever.
Guys, is anybody there? Do you have... Okay, cool. Let's do the salary then. Thank you, Dan. Cool. So the salary question, what is it? Not here. I'll find it. Display the expected salary of a player. Yes. That's a good question. It's slightly more complicated than the other one. So yeah, I think it's a good choice then. So display the expected salary of a player. So we got a component called salary with a couple of elements. So we got an input and a label. So we are expected to type your expected salary. When you sign up into a job search portal, how much you want to make, right? So you put your salary, and then we're telling you a message. Your expected salary is whatever you just typed. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We have a class. Do we really need to use a class? I don't think we need to use a class, right? I don't see any explicit reference to the state. Because of that, I'm going to remove it, and I will use a function. If I fail, if I mistake, I thought that we didn't need to use the state explicitly, I will change it back. So no problem at all. Function salary, and then return something. Yeah. So because we need to keep track of the salary, so let me use a hook. So const salary set salary equals use state, and then I don't know. Yes, let's keep it. Maybe I don't know, something like that. Yeah. And then the function got a couple of fields. So I'm using an empty fragment to wrap them all. And now I got an input type. I think it's called number. So that means you can only type numbers. Guys, this is pretty convenient. When you are dealing with forms using your mobile device, have you noticed that sometimes when you try to fill a form, the keypad, the virtual keypad changes? So rather than typing all the alphanumerical characters, you can only type numbers. Have you noticed that? So that's because of that, right? Because obviously the mobile devices, they understand that if the type of the input is number, you are not allowed to type A, B, C, D, E, right? That's why they only show you the keypad with numbers 0 to 9, something like that. Type number for now, and then we got the label. And then let's close the label. So, first of all, we need, guys, when you get an input, the first thing you have to do is bind with some value. So the value will be offered by the salary. Yeah? That's the first thing. And then the complicated bit here is obviously when we change, whenever we type something, we want to update the state. So to capture that, we got the onChange event. And now, do you remember, guys, how to capture the value entered by the user? Brilliant, Ian. That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. So here you receive the event. If you remember, we talked about that last week. And now we just set salary, and the new value is, as Ian suggested, e.target.value. And then finally, we need to display a message. I think there were some conditions here. So let me read the instructions. So the condition said, by default, the get message. So the label is empty. And as soon as you type some value, then expected salary, whatever. Yeah. So here we need a ternary, I believe, right? So the ternary says salary. If I got any salary, then expected salary, then salary, else empty string. Yeah, something like that. And unless I did something wrong, I need a what? Sorry. Ah, the pound. Yeah. Actually, look, brilliant, Dan. Absolutely, you spotted. Yeah, I'm missing the pound, the sterling symbol, right? So, expected salary, maybe here, not, yeah, something like that. All right. So let's see if it works. Brilliant. That's it, right? That's it. Personally, guys, if I had to write that code as part of my application, I wouldn't use a ternary. To me, guys, the ternary makes sense where you want A or B. If I do something, then something else, something else, A or B. In this particular case, I don't really care about B. B is just nothing, an empty string. Yeah? If I want to display no salary yet or something like that, then yeah, of course, that makes a lot of sense. But because I don't really care about the default scenario. Can we do something like that, guys? You see, if I got salary, then display it. That's it, right? If not, that will return false, or that will return the empty string, actually. You see, empty string. Is empty string truthy or falsy, guys? It's falsy, that's correct. So if that's falsy, it will return it, and that's it. It wouldn't even evaluate that message on the right hand side. Up to you guys. If you don't feel very comfortable using the Boolean algebra here, just have a ternary. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And obviously, let's check it still works. Cool, awesome, it works. So any questions? Yeah, of course. I'm sharing it on Slack, Panos. I'm sharing it on Slack. Cool. So let me see what you did. So what you did here, that was question number, yeah. So that was that question. So what is it? Salary experience, right? So Ian. So Ian created, yes, he followed the stateful approach, which is fine. Salary, and then input, and then yeah. So the value on change. That's pretty much the same thing, right? He's using, you can see the double ampersand. So he's using the Boolean algebra. That's absolutely fine, right? Adam. Yeah, that's the same thing. My only concern about Adam's solution is on readability. Why, Adam? Because your state, the variable is called message. Not sure if you get my point, but I struggle to understand what that means, because in reality, message is the salary, it's a number, right? So not sure if you agree with me. I would rather prefer to call it, for instance, as Ian said, call it salary, yeah, because that actually tells me a bit more about what's going on within that particular test. What do you think, Adam? I think you are on mute if you are trying to speak. Is Adam connected, by the way, or am I talking to no one? Adam is not connected. All right, so that doesn't make any sense, right? What I'm doing. Okay, cool. So let me check Dan. Dan, you see, that's great, Dan. Dan, he's using a hook directly. And then he got a variable called get message and he displayed. That's perfect. That's very clean. That's very neat. Dan, just one subtle thing. When you have a variable called get something, get message, get salary, get user, get document, whatever, mentally speaking, developers, we believe that's a function you have to invoke. Yeah. So if you call it get something, that is expected to be a function. If you remember, no, sorry, I didn't actually do that, so I cannot show you that. Yeah. So if you want two options, if you want to use the get something, then create it, convert it into a function, and then you call the function. If not, if you don't want to create a function, because I pretty much agree with you, it's probably not necessary here, then rename the message to rename the variable to just message. Yep. Cool. Thank you, Ian and Panos. So state, salary, and then he just got the on chains and then the label. Yeah, that's perfect, right? And finally, Ebrima. You see, Ebrima got probably a penalty here because he's using double quotes in JavaScript. I think the single quotes approach is preferred. And apart from that, he also got another warning here, guys. Empty space missing here, and then there is a wrong indentation here as well, guys. So, and wrong indentation here as well. So I know, guys, you sometimes run under pressure, but to me it's very important when I'm reviewing the code that the candidate has written. To me it's very important to see how far they pay attention to details, guys. So make sure you tidy up. You look after these tiny details. All right, so we got 3-4 minutes left. So what I can do is I can quickly solve the last question. I will do it quite quickly, and then I will share the code with you on Slack in case you want to play with it. So I got a calc method that essentially requires some state, A and B, A7, B4, and then we want to perform some operations. Yeah, we add the numbers, subtract, do A minus B, and then if we do anything else, we will display not supported yet. So first of all, let's use the constructor, and then super, and then this dot state. So A7, I believe, B4, and now we got the render, and on the render function we return whatever, depending on the operation. We want to deal with A and B, right? So let me get the variables first. AB equals this dot state. We also receive, guys, as you've seen, the operation that could be add, multiply, subtract, whatever. So let me destructure it as well. Operation equals this dot props, you see. So now the idea is, if operation equal add, oh sorry, let me rephrase that. If operation equal add, then return A plus B, right? Else, if operation equal subtract, return A minus B, and else return what? Operation. This operation is not supported yet, so return this operation is not supported yet, I think there is some formatting on the operation. Yeah, we should display the result is whatever, no problem at all. So let's use some, sorry guys, let's use some string interpolation. So the result is a plus b. So likewise, on the second one, the result is a minus b. I think it's something like that, right? Unless I did something wrong. See, that's not particularly complicated. So let's see if it works. I did something wrong. This operation not supported yet to equal. All right, so I did something wrong. Add, subtract. I did something wrong, and I don't see what the problem is. So let me have a look. So the variable name is called operation. I have an S. I used the wrong variable name. Cool. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Where is that subtract? You're right. Brilliant. Thank you. Subtract. Cool. Brilliant. Thank you, Dan. Yes, that was it. That was absolutely it. Any questions, guys, about this algorithm? No, you see, it's quite simple, right? Things get much simpler when we don't have to deal with labels, divs, spans. You know, just pure JavaScript. If, else, if. Yeah. Of course, you could use the ternary operator if you wanted here as well. That's absolutely fine. You got a snippet on Slack, guys. So, any final thoughts about this exercise, about this challenge? No. That was really good, guys. I think the challenge was good. You performed really well. Of course, we will continue running challenges on a weekly basis. But yeah, that was really good. If anyone is interested, for instance, Ian, because you got a really good score today, next week I can enable for you the advanced level of React, which is not necessary to get the blue tick. But if you want to take a more complex challenge, you know, you can play with it if you want. We'll talk about that next week. Okay. Cool. Thank you very much, guys. See you later. Bye bye.